Welcome back to Hey Eintracht Frankfurt, the Bundesliga podcast covering everything there is to know in the English language about the 125-year-old beautiful, beautiful club that we call affectionately the Moody Diva, Eintracht Frankfurt. I am Chris here in Detroit. We appreciate you listening to Half Pod this week. A little bit chaotic, life kind of gets in the way sometimes, but we're piecing it together. We're getting the job done. We appreciate you coming back week after week, month after month. It's always a good time. You keep listening, we'll keep doing this. So you can catch me on Twitter, Peloton, Instagram, Discord, all those cool places at Seeing the D313. You can find the show, halfpod.com. All of our links are there. Of course, on X at halfpod and on Instagram at Hey Eintracht Frankfurt. So before we go further, I want to thank, it's been a couple weeks since I've been on. I want to go back in time to that Heidenheim match, the crazy bounces that seemed to finally fall our way for once. But I want to thank the crew over in Wisconsin. I was in Madison for some college hockey and stopped into the Fifth Quarter Bar and Grill out in Verona, Wisconsin. They were great to us, set us up with ESPN Plus there. Jason Knoll, common contributor here at Half Pod, and got to meet up with Matt Harmon from Talking Foosball, another fantastic Bundesliga podcast. So he says the oldest English language podcast about the Bundesliga. I trust him. I don't know of any others as old as theirs. Fantastic work there by Matt. I had a great chat with him about all things in the game of football and the Bundesliga. But that's enough of my rambling. My guest today needs no further introduction. He's making his third or fourth appearance now on the show and brings in a lot more depth than I can. John out in Delaware, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, man. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. The madness has begun in the college basketball world here in the States, and the madness is in full swing in the Bundesliga. It's been a week. It's been a crazy couple weeks here for Eintracht Frankfurt. Both sides of the building, the men's and the women's side, kind of in strange directions, losing streaks, winning streaks now, and just kind of all over the map. But before we go further, let's talk about the beautiful kits that celebrated the 125th anniversary of the club, and not just the kits themselves, what they represent. It's hard to put in perspective. I mean, you're newer to the club. I've been following for about 30 years now. It's hard to put in context in the country we live in, where most sports teams, the football team you follow is barely 30 years old. The hockey team that I follow,
1 year older than me.
Yeah, exactly. The hockey team that I follow, one of the oldest in the game of hockey, is still 20 years younger than Eintracht Frankfurt. So, it's one of those things where we really have a hard time grasping the concept of it. Eintracht Frankfurt, the union of two clubs back in 1899, creating the club that we know today. And the kit, I thought, was a really good representation of those roots, with the original charter for the union on the front of the kit, and the gold looked really nice. I like that Indeed gave up their branding. I actually got my kit in the mail, thanks DHL. I got it on Monday, so I didn't have a chance to wear it for the game itself. I don't think I'm going to be wearing it. I think that's a nice display piece for the wall that I'm building out with all my gear. Any thoughts from you on the 125th anniversary?
Man, you know what? Even though I'm a bit newer to the club than many people, just seeing the passion from the fans and how it affected the players. I mean, you see what this club means, and you can understand that there's been 125 years of just rich history here, and it's just incredible. And not to mention those kits are beautiful. So,
it's something that, your more recent fandom, the amount of traveling that you've had the opportunity to do to support this club, and the people that you've met along the way, and certainly in my travels, the people I've met, and everyone you talk to, it's true in this sport more than anywhere else that that the club picks you. And
Yeah.
nobody in their right mind deliberately picks Eintracht Frankfurt from a list of clubs. You look at the lack of winning and things like that. It wouldn't be anyone's first draft choice, but there's a loyalty and a passion that goes with the graphic that the club shared, the 125, the 1 Bundesliga title, the 2 European titles, and the 5 cup titles. The 125 is emblematic of both how long the club's been around, and then in that graphic, the struggles that goes along with it. But sometimes it's, the hottest fires that forge the hardest steels. And that's what we have to remember as fans of this club, right?
Absolutely.
So let's get into the matches. Let's start with the Frauen side, and I'm going to take a shot before I'm nice to them later. Dotson not putting a matchup of 2 top 3 teams on their broadcast platforms was a little bit disappointing. Certainly, I went out of my way, talked to my friends over in Denmark, and got them to beam over to me the replay of the game. So I have seen it twice in its entirety. Bayern Munich come into Frankfurt and walk away with a 2-1 victory over our beloved Frauen. I don't think the score is entirely indicative of the match. Chances back and forth early. I thought Stina Johannes really did a great job of keeping Frankfurt in it early before there was any scoring. Couple chances both ways, but she made a couple great saves. One right under the crossbar, another deflected off to the side of the goal. A couple great chances early by Bayern, counters by Eintracht. And then Bayern takes a 1-0 lead. Eintracht Frankfurt returns the favor early, or I say about midway through the second half, Laura Freigang. And then Leah Schuler finishes it off for Bayern in the 77th. But where I want to go with this one is twofold. The first one, I know you've seen part of the match, not the whole thing yet. Statistics back me up on this one. Frankfurt was the better side. Shots on target, Bayern led 5-3. Overall shots 16-11 on the Frankfurt side. But Frankfurt carried 58% possession and 77% passing to 73. Now, those are just stats, but the quality of shot was a little bit better from Bayern. But I thought we played our game moving the ball as we wanted to. I thought we were a little hesitant to shoot the ball a little bit. Nicole Naomi kind of put the ball into defenders' legs instead of just shooting the ball, trying to make a couple extra dribbles along the way. Not a bad result against a team that is better than you, but a little disappointing because it drops us to 4th in the table. Where are you at with this one? I'm more deflated in what it did in the table versus the actual loss in one match itself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I obviously was only able to watch the first 25 minutes, I believe it was, of the match before my free German stream timed out. And quite frankly, for those minutes, I definitely thought Bayern looked a bit better than us. And, when I was following along the team's Twitter feed for the rest of the game and seeing the stats, it sure looked like we, after Bull put them up, really came out strong, and which is wonderful to see. Now, obviously, a loss to Bayern means, we're behind Hoffenheim in the table now. And, it's not this loss that causes that. It's, the loss to Leipzig, which is just unacceptable, and the loss to Essen early in the year, and, some other drop points along the way. But, now being behind Hoffenheim is a tough position to be in, but we've got one more match against them, so we take care of that. They've got Wolfsburg next, so hopefully we can get back up into 3rd, but obviously the dream of trying to crack into the top 2 for an automatic spot is dead at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a little concerning dropping 3 matches in a row now. 15 matches played, sitting on 26 points. As you mentioned, Hoffenheim passes us, goes up to 27. That 3rd spot gets the task that we had early in the year in playing through a qualification round to get into the group stage of the Champions League. Bayern is not losing. Wolfsburg hasn't dropped points in 3 or 4 weeks now. And Hoffenheim is as hot as they've been all year. So things aren't going to get easier. We've got to get points back. We have 7 matches left in the season, and we got to make up 2 points. 1 to tie and 2 to pass. And the points are going to be there starting with this next match. But it's critical for me that we damn near win out. Because, we're not, like you said, we're not going to catch second. That dream is over. But Hoffenheim is getting stronger each week. And that's a little worrisome for me because we can't be in a position where we're saying, oh, we'll get those points back. We did that earlier in the year, and we never recovered from it. So we gotta focus on the league, but also there's a DFB Pokal coming up, semifinal against Bayern. So there's got to be some mental toughness here to go along with the physical toughness. If I look at the bright side from this one, Laura Frageng getting back on the score sheet, a tremendous play from her, kind of a goal scorer's goal when your foot's really only on the ball to finish it. But the way she found a soft spot at the top of the zone, right on the penalty dot, was really kind of emblematic of just still knowing what to do. She's kind of been through ups and downs this year, and we expect a lot more out of her than we've been getting. And I think we're patient with her because we've seen what she can do. But I got to see more from these leaders. The Prashnikar, Frageng, Aniomi, even off the bench, Martinez, like the goals got to come because we're sitting on 26 goals scored through 15 matches. That's a bad clip when the teams you're chasing down are sitting on 33 up to 44 for Wolfsburg. We're even with Bayern we're sitting on 26 goals, trailing Hoffenheim and Bayern with 33 and Wolfsburg with 44. We got to find a way to score goals. We're going to have a chance in this next match. We're going to talk about that later. But it's a bit concerning to me falling into fourth. What the headspace, what's in that headspace right now? I think we got 2 matches left in the league before almost a month-long international break. So we got to break out of this funk. Any last thoughts on the Frauen?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. I mean, we got to just get our shit together and score some goals because it's the people who've been reliable in the past that haven't quite gotten it done for us recently. Prashnikar and Yomi Frageng. Good again to see Frageng get on the score sheet because it's been a tough go the past couple of months for her. But they all need to step up a bit.
Do you know her contract situation? I did not do my homework. It just kind of came in my mind here. We locked her up for a bit longer, right?
Not yet. So her contract expires in summer 2025, I believe. There was some talk over the winter that the club and her were discussing an early contract extension. I haven't seen anything further with that. Obviously, I think it'd be really important for us to lock her up. I don't see anyone else on this team that can play that number 10 role quite like she can. So we hopefully we can get that in, and she doesn't leave in the summer because apparently there was some talk of that last summer, but she said that she wanted to stay. So we'll see. She
is a regular fixture on the German women's national team. It's hard to replace someone of her quality. Her character off the pitch as well. Her work ethic is outstanding. For her sake, I want her to get paid. I want her to earn that big paycheck that I think she deserves. But, we got to see a little bit more from her, too, if that's going to come from us. We do not want to let her walk. You got to lock her down. No. And I think that might be one of those things that getting that confidence and knowing, hey, we locked her down for 3 or 4 more years might actually help give her a boost production-wise.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go on to the men's side of the training facility. And, of course, again, wearing the 125th anniversary kits in the Waldstadion. 3-1 victory for Eintracht Frankfurt over Hoffenheim. Interestingly, the exact same score as I think it was October 21st. And in that one, Hoffenheim jumped out to a lead. And then Eintracht Frankfurt scores the next 3 for the victory. So a history repeating itself on a historic day. Let's just start at the top. John Anthony Brooks. It always it never fails. Maybe it's just because I'm American. Americans love to beat up on Frankfurt. It's just kind of a thing. They do it all the time. John Anthony Brooks gets a nice goal 6 minutes in. Can't fault him. He did the right thing. We had a shot to get one in the first couple minutes. Like, hell yeah, here we go. We're going to roll. And then Hoffenheim goes down, and we're like, oh, damn, here we go again. But things change pretty dramatically. John Anthony Brooks, as mentioned, then he goes off with a red card, taking down Marmoush on a breakaway. I certainly see where the red was. I don't know if he had quite the separation that made it an obvious call. But when you look at Marmoush, his speed, there was no doubt he was going to break away and have the one-on-one. I mean, I'm going to state the most obvious point here. That was a pivotal turning point 20 minutes into the match. Let's go up to that point, up until Robin Koch scores the go-ahead goal, or I'm sorry, the tying goal in the 32nd minute. Were we getting a little bit anxious 10 minutes into the man advantage, and we hadn't really done a whole lot? I mean, the chances were coming, but, you know, it's you just want to pour them on at that point. They weren't coming after 10 minutes. Once the dam broke, it was the floodgates, but I don't know. Just with the recent up and down form, I was still a little bit nervous, even being down a man. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was one of those things where, like, I personally didn't feel nervous just because, you know, we were getting so many chances. But you could see that there was some frustration on the players to not really have, you know, the goals coming yet, because they really felt that, you know, we should be up. And even before the red card, we were the better side and getting some chances. And I think that there was a little bit of frustration. Now, obviously, once Koch tied it up, then it was just a matter of time before we scored another one. So, but yeah, I definitely think that there was a slight bit of nervousness there for a minute.
You could kind of hear it from the stands too. It turned into a festive
there were some whistles
atmosphere
for sure,
because everyone thought, you know, everyone had the idea we were playing well. There was no real concern. Mm-hmm. Nervous was the wrong term, but there was some anxiety on my end that, if anyone was going to go out and not score a goal, up a man for 70 minutes, you knew it would be us, especially with our pattern of
this year's version.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, it was a little nervous for a few minutes. Like you said, the whistling and the jeers came out a little bit. But after that goal in the 32nd, it was like, hey, guys, we got this. Don't worry about it. Come out of the half, organized, looking real good. Ebimbe with a nice goal. Götze with the finisher. I thought he was, for me, the player of the match. Mario Götze.
I would agree.
First half, second half. He said, don't forget about me. I'm still the GOAT around here. And, you know, he's one of those guys where, let's focus on him for a minute, because a lot of our inefficiency you could put right on his plate a little bit. Not facilitating the ball like we've seen him do last year a little bit. And what's been expected of him throughout his career is creativity and ability to pass the ball and facilitate things up high is why he's a legend. You know, whether he's been as effective as what was expected of him, maybe a little bit unfairly because of his World Cup accolades, but still, he's Mario Götze, and he hasn't done what we signed him to do. But what we saw from him against Hoffenheim was exactly that. He was chasing balls down. Even at his age, he probably I don't have the stats up, but he probably put up more distance than anyone else on our side. He was playing box to box, sideline to sideline, and then he gets a goal at the end of it. That made the week for me. Let's talk about Ebimbe and his goal in the 50th. Really kind of, didn't just take the pressure off us. I think that was the first one. The second one, we put the foot on the gas. And at that point, you knew the 3 points were in hand. And then we go up 2. And I know we were talking about it in our Discord chat. We're like, go for 4, go for 5. Don't stop. 'Cause, who knows when goal differential is going to play a factor in the table.
We got to keep
honestly,
that up.
We've given up some big score lines the other way, and we got to pick them up where we can. But overall, a great performance. It was nice to get some new bodies in there, too. As I look at it here, guys coming off the bench, Ekitike, Hasebe, Chandler, Van de Beek coming on and getting a yellow. That's kind of cool. And Canal.
2 minutes after coming on.
It's like the new dominant core. Just one of those things where you like seeing certain faces coming off the bench and knowing everything's okay. Hasebe, when he comes off the bench, everything's going to be okay. Chandler came into the bench and like 30 seconds later rips one from distance. And, it was a celebratory day for the club. And I'm glad these guys got to celebrate. They've been through a lot this year. Kevin Trapp looked happier than anybody after the match. So any final thoughts on this one?
No, I think you're hitting it spot on about Mario Götze. We've been waiting to see a performance like that for a while from him because it's what we expect. And finally we saw that this match, and man, he was incredible. I thought Abembe also looked really good. I think he was definitely one of those players who looked a bit frustrated until we got that first goal because he had a couple good runs and shots, but and then you saw the relief and joy on his face once he finally did get our second goal. And at that point it really was just a celebration. The players were having fun, the fans were having fun, and it was just a great day to be an Eintracht fan, that's for sure.
Yeah. You think about, we kind of touched on the lows of the history of the club and some of the recent highs. Guys like David Abraham having an opportunity to celebrate him and Charlie Corbel and other guys that are names that are associated with this club, and the great times of the recent past and blending with some of the names from the long ago past, and having the opportunity to go out with the one-off kits in a celebratory environment with a victory really hopefully sets us on the right path, because we got a lot of work to do. There's 9 matches left in the season. After match day 25, Eintracht Frankfurt sits at 6 on 40 points. We are 6 points back of that automatic Europa League spot. I say automatic because John's going to do some math in a few minutes. It's going to bend my mind in all positions. Not ready to do. You're going to explain some things. We'll go with that.
All right. Yeah.
But right off the top, are we ready to call the league at this point? Bayer Leverkusen, 67 points, 21 victories, 4 draws, 0 in the loss column. They're 10 points ahead of Bayern Munich with 9 matches to play. I know they say it's not over till it's over. We've seen Dortmund blow this one a couple times. Are you ready to call this one in favor of Bayer Leverkusen?
I'm taking a look at the rest of their schedule real quick before I... Yeah, definitely. Look at this. They got Freiburg, Hoffenheim, Union, Werder, Dortmund, Stuttgart, us, Bochum, Augsburg. You know what? If there's one club who would be able to bottle that, it'd be Leverkusen, but I don't think it's happening this year.
Yeah, they've been so consistent. Every single week has been just really well played. And when they don't play well, they still take other teams out of their rhythm. If my expression, my expression, it doesn't have to be pretty as long as it's gritty. They define that. When they're not playing pretty, they're gritty, and getting 1 point is better than no points at all. And they've so far had that 0 in the loss column. So can never say they can't drop it, but at this point, I think they're safe. Bayern in second at 57 points. Stuttgart still hanging around. When we were at the halfway point at Christmas talking about where things were going, I think everyone expected them to fall off a little bit. They haven't at all. Dortmund isn't really making up any ground on them. They're still 6 points ahead of Dortmund in fourth. And Leipzig and Dortmund are a point off, battling for that final Champions League spot. So let's look at where Frankfurt is at 6. The win combined with a Hoffenheim loss was really key because that kept us 7 points clear. Now, if anyone can drop 7 points over 9 matches, it's going to be us. So we are not safe for Europe by any means at all.
Not even close.
As we look at the bottom of the table, some separation coming about here now. Cologne in that relegation playoff spot at 16 with 18 points. Mainz 17th, 16 points. And Darmstadt with the lowly 13. Bochum on 25 points. That's a 7-point gap between them and that relegation battle. I think that one's pretty secure. I know they've lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
But they're one of those teams that they grind it out. They make it dirty. They make it ugly. I think they're going to be safe. Union Berlin has done a hell of a job resurrecting their slide. They lost 2 in a row now. But they had some points picked up before that. Interesting one on the weekend, a big matchup between Cologne and Mönchengladbach with a 3-3 draw. Bayern absolutely whipping Mainz, which I don't mind the Bayern victory there because whatever, they're not going to win the league. Mainz. But to whip Mainz like that and just suck any hope of life out of their season was always a welcome gift to those of us that hate everything Mainz. And not really a lot of surprises throughout the rest of the league, kind of scratch across the table. But there's going to be a lot of things happening the next few weeks that cause chaos in the table. So I kind of teased it a few minutes ago. And before we talk about our beverages, I want you to explain to me a little bit about the coefficient, what's happening in European football, and why we should care right now.
Yeah, so in the coefficient, the association coefficient that UEFA does to rank the different associations by country, decides how spots are allocated for Europe. And obviously the top 4 leagues get their top 4 teams get Champions League spots and so on. We've seen how the system has worked. And so essentially it hasn't really mattered to us very much in the past because the system hasn't been changed for a while. Now, next year, with the expanded Champions League, the top 2 countries will get an additional Champions League spot. So the top 2 will get 5 Champions League spots. And right now, the rankings, Italy is on top, Germany's in second, and England's in third. And Italy was ahead by quite a bit. That gap is closed a little bit, and England is right behind Germany. So the points are calculated based on performance in group stage, performance in the knockout rounds, wins, draws in individual games, stuff like that. I won't pretend to know all of the math that goes behind it, and I believe it's an average of some kind. I don't also remember exactly how it's all calculated. But so essentially right now, Germany is in a good spot to receive that 5th automatic Champions League spot. And in order to hold on to that, we kind of have to root for the German teams in the remaining competitions to do well, because that would also mean that our spot 6th would then become an automatic Europa League spot rather than a Conference League spot. Obviously, if Leverkusen were to win the Pokal, then things change, but given some of their performances recently, I'm not entirely sold on that. And so, right now, Italy has, I believe, 4 teams remaining. England has 5. And Germany, after Freiburg's loss to West Ham today, which is a big blow to the coefficient, only has 3 teams left. So, yeah, I mean, and especially with Bayern and Dortmund in the Champions League, it still gives Germany some chance to hold on to the 2nd spot. Italy not having any Champions League teams hurts, but yeah, so we just got to hope that the German teams can go as far, and so that we can be in a better European competition come next fall.
So you're telling me that I have to start cheering for the teams that I've loved to hate?
Okay, you don't have to, because everyone should root how they want, obviously. So you don't have to, but for the sake of us being in a better competition,
sure,
one could have that motivation to root a certain way.
And the way things are lined up right now, the Bundesliga is at no risk of losing spots in competitions. They only stand to gain. So, if you're comfortable, if you're comfortable with where the league is at right now and without adding an additional spot, hey, then so be it. Let things fall as they may. I appreciate that explanation because while I follow the European competitions, I was totally oblivious to this mathematical formula that makes it all happen. To be totally honest with that. I do not do a lot of homework before this podcast, so I appreciate that explanation.
I should have done more, but
I put you on the spot a bit. So after doing a little mental gymnastics there, it's time to rehydrate, and we're going to talk about what we've been drinking, what we've got in front of us currently. What about you? Anything good?
On Sunday I had a nice little drinking session as my flight ended up getting delayed 4.5 hours, but so that was good time at the airport. Can never go wrong with some airport beverages. Right now I am drinking Hazy Squale by Dogfish Head. It's an IPA made here in Delaware.
Cool. I like Dogfish Head.
Yeah.
While you mentioned the airport beer, I think it's good time to refresh our list of top 3 beers. My top 3 in a very particular order is the doing yard work beer, the airport beer, and the shower beer. I love all 3 of those beers. And, it's hard to put one above the other because it doesn't matter which one of those 3 you're doing. But the yard work beer, the airport beer, and the shower beer all have like a perfect hit where you're like, man, that's perfection right there. And it doesn't matter what the beer is. It could be the Bud Light or it could be some crap thing from down the street. It does not matter at all. That moment with that beer is as good as it gets. That airport beer. Now, I kind of made fun of you in our online chat about it. But the airport beer, when you're in that long delay, that's kind of a dangerous one too. Because you're like, yeah, I'll have another one. But then you don't know how long that delay is going to be too. And I don't know unless you're on an aisle seat, do you want to be that guy? It's like, hey, I got to get up again.
I always get an aisle seat, so don't worry.
See, I'm a window seat guy, so I got to be careful what I do at the airport bar. Anyway, that was enough of a side rant there, but I was in Madison a couple weeks ago, as I mentioned, and I did some shopping around there. And I'm currently sipping on, first, this can has got to have the best art that I have ever seen produced. I took my daughter into the store with me because she helps me carry all the stuff that I, put into my body and say, don't be like dad someday. But she noticed the box, and it was actually one that Jason had recommended to me earlier in the day from Carbon 4 Brewing. It's called Fantasy Factory, and it's an IPA. It's 6.3%. It's really good. It's really smooth. I've kind of soured on IPAs as I get older, but this one is certainly a good one. It doesn't taste like a pine tree. It's just a nice, smooth flavor. But the badass cover art, I'm just going to say what I see.
I got to say.
There's a unicorn spitting fire out of its nostrils. Its hair is flames. By the way, it's being ridden on the back by a cat wearing some badass bandana with a pistol in its hand. And I'm probably missing a lot more if I look closer at the detail. But Google Fantasy Factory by Carbon 4 Brewing. It's Carbon with a K. Really good stuff. I'm looking forward to getting into the rest of the stuff that I bought in Wisconsin. And I'll get back with you guys with more on that. But we're going to take a break. I did enough talking here. We're going to talk a little more Eintracht Frankfurt here in segment 2. Wherever you're drinking, whatever you're drinking, and whatever you're drinking to, we say Prost. Welcome back. Segment 2. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt. John out in Delaware. Chris here in Detroit. So let's talk a little bit about where things stand. We talked about the men's league. Let's talk where the women's league stands here with 7 matches left. We're going to talk about Eintracht Frankfurt, their match coming up against Duisburg, and kind of where I sit with the league as a whole. Duisburg, who we beat 4-1 a couple weeks ago in a Pokal matchup that leads us to Bayern in the semifinals here coming up. But as we look at the league as a whole, the separation that's occurred there is I just lost my computer. That's good. Duisburg, bottom of the table, right? But whereas Eintracht struggled this year, it's the bottom of the table. So there we go. I got it back. So with 7 matches to play, we got. Let's roll through the upcoming matches here. We've got Duisburg on the weekend, Werder Bremen, and then Bayern in the Pokal, and then it's the league the rest of the way. Leverkusen, Nuremberg, Hoffenheim, Freiburg, Cologne. A lot of names that we're familiar with there from the men's side, but Cologne, Nuremberg, Freiburg, Bremen, all in the top 7 in the table. Or I'm sorry, bottom 5 in the table. I'm really following this segment. 5, yeah. all of those are in the bottom 5 of the table, and not winning a lot of games. Duisburg hasn't won a league game in a month. Nuremberg in a month. One of those things where all of the points are on the table. Every single one of those, the rest of the way, as we look match by match, every single match the rest of the way is against a team in league play, against a team that's below us in the table. I don't believe enough.
Hoffenheim, but they might be below us at that point.
I think at that point we'll be even or maybe above. But you're right. At this point, they're ahead.
One would hope after this weekend we'll be back ahead. But
should be going up
they
against.
Have to face Wolfsburg, but
exactly.
You never know. They could put up a fight there.
Yep, and you never know. We could drop points. There could be an overconfidence.
I would hope not, but
but that's the point. You know, when we drop points against SGE, and we're like, hey, there's no way we lose this one, and then we go out and do it. So, with 7 matches left in league play, how many wins do you realistically expect us to take?
So what you said, we've got Duisburg, Cologne, Freiburg, Werder. I think those all should be wins. Werder Bremen's played pretty well this year overall. So, I mean, they could give us some issues, but I mean, obviously did we beat them or tie them at their arena early in the year? And so hopefully at home we can be able to beat them. I mean, theoretically we should get a win in all of the games remaining, but I'll never expect that out of a Frankfurt side. Leverkusen especially, I think, will be a tough game. They, to me, are a very impressive side. They don't quite have the point totals. Not that they're that far behind us, but they've got some really good players and could give us a lot of trouble. And, of course, the match against Hoffenheim, that's the team that's closest to us and has been for the past handful of years. And, so that could give us a lot of trouble. But I think overall we should win at least 5 of the 7 remaining.
You know, for as
I would hope,
easy,
at least.
Yeah, for as I shouldn't say easy, that's the wrong word. For as on paper light as our schedule is the remainder of the way, on the other side of things for Hoffenheim, they've got some really tough matchups coming up. Wolfsburg, and then they've got Bayern to end the year. So we have to assume they're going to drop some points at some point. But that's our opportunity too, not just to earn points back, but also to create a little bit of separation. And
absolutely,
the whole reason I brought up what's going on there is because we talked about not being in that Champions League spot. That was the expectation going into this year. For me, it was a second place finish. I think you were in a similar light. I know we talked before the season. You
at
thought
least pushing for it. Yep.
Third was obvious, but second would be like the real goal. Now, we fell short of second. I've written that off. I think we all have. But there is no excuse not to get this. With the roster in place, I think it's really important that they finish that job and at least meet that expectation. We talked a little bit about a transfer that's coming in, Eliza Sens. I think that's a good midfield signing. It was announced this week or last week. She's currently with Leverkusen. This is her second year with them, and previously with SGS Essen, and then Meppen before that for several years. A very experienced midfielder. Played her whole career in Germany. She's played with the national team. I think this is one of those signings of a veteran player that's like, hey, I'm not young, I'm not scoring a ton of goals, but we're going to settle things down. And this signing coming on the heels of a 3-game losing streak kind of makes me feel a little bit more confident in the way things are going next year. What are your thoughts on that?
And I think that I think that her signing is very important for us as well, because she can play in a few different roles in that midfield. Obviously, she's a box-to-box midfielder. She can play defensive midfield, which, we'll see what happens with Pavlek when she returns, or if she returns in the fall. She could fill in there alongside Greve, or, they can switch out. But she could also, fill in for Reuteler or Dunst. We don't have a ton of backup in the midfield in those positions, so I think getting her in there is going to be great. She's got, like you said, a lot of experience. She's done really, really well for an emerging Leverkusen side the past few years. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about this signing. She's experienced, but still in her prime. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yep. I think the versatility factor, because this team, when you look at how they play out the roster each week, the positions are all labeled the same, but they're very versatile. It's a very dynamic group. I think that's kind of Nico's style, is that they're going to flex to where they see the best advantages against the opponent. It's not that we have to play a rigid form. We just have to be able to work our players' strengths into what the other team is giving us. So I certainly think her addition gives us, and who knows what's going to happen. We're in the middle of March. What happens in the off season, who signs, who stays, who goes. Certainly, I don't think they're done yet. A little bit of heat coming on Nico after this 3-game losing streak. Is the heat warranted? Because I've been critical of some of his moves. I don't think he uses his bench the way he should. But at the same time, we're still a young team, at least for the rest of this year. Next year, in my opinion, switches, and we're an older, more experienced team that's learned to win and learned to lose. But for the remainder of this year, we're still a relatively young team. What are your thoughts? You watch more of the Frauen than I think anyone else I talk to on here. What are your thoughts on Nico and the way he manages this group?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on the bench part. He doesn't use his bench really for the most part, and that's frustrating because we have players there. I mean, maybe not the best depth in the world, but especially in attack, we have depth, and he almost never makes a change until the 75th minute. And it's just, and he never rotates either between games. Not never, but hasn't, somewhat a little bit more in the middle of this season, but now and in the early part of the season and in years past, he really hasn't rotated. And with the amount of games that we've been playing, we need to get the players some more rest. And I think also tactically, he really kind of sticks with that 4-4-2 with that diamond in the middle quite a lot. I mean, I know there's some fluctuation with how Freigang plays up top. Sometimes she's a striker, sometimes the 10, whatever. But he doesn't really ever change any tactics, doesn't adapt to a game. And I think that's something that's hurt us in some of the bigger games in the past few years. When we've, had a team that could compete in these matches where, maybe we need to play a little bit differently or show a different formation. Just something to even throw off the other team, because they know what they expect out of us. Everyone knows what to expect.
To that point about Nico's use of the bench in that loss against Bayern last weekend, we didn't see Martinez come on for Dunst until the 87th, Chiba for Naomi until the 87th. and Eiling for Henshaw and
2 stoppage times.
So, like, what are you doing when there's minutes left in the match, starting to make these moves? That, this is stuff you got to start thinking about in 55 and 60, and then pull the trigger in 65. You gotta give these women time to get loose, time to feel out the space they have to work with. You don't just throw players on and say, "Hey, we need a goal," and it happens. That's very rare for the best players in the game. So I think it's fair to, see how the season plays out. I don't think Nico's done a bad job. He's really developed some young players into very stable, athletes that are going to be in the league or in the game for a very long time. But I still yet to see that progression from one step to the next. I got to see that.
Yeah,
I'm not saying Nico out.
Stagnated in our spot, but
it's a plateau. That's fair to say. We've stepped up, but we've now flattened out at that next step. And now, unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until August to see that next step. So I'm not giving up on Nico yet, but I got to see him put some subs out before the 85th minute at some point.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. So
I mean, if we do get third and don't win our qualifying group or whatever for the Champions League next year, then I will definitely be on Team Nico out. But right now, I'm leaning on that edge. I don't know if I'm quite fully there yet, but yeah.
I'm usually proven wrong with this club on either side. When I start talking shit about somebody, they come back and remind me why I'm just an idiot talking to dozens of people every week. But
for sure.
So league matchup against Duisburg this week. That one is available free in the States at Dotson.com, DAZN.com. Registration there is free. Please tune in, because the more we watch, the more they see the numbers and the more games they probably put up there. So go online, watch the Eintracht Frauen against Duisburg. That time is, we had a time change here in the States, 1:30 p.m.
Oh.
Man, that...
Wait,
actually,
do they change over this weekend, though?
It's a good question.
Or do they change over the weekend after?
I don't know. Someone's going to tell me on Twitter that they tuned in an hour late, because
I guess so.
Google is telling me it's 1:30 p.m. here on the East Coast of the United States.
Yeah. You
do the math. Google it, find it, but DAZN.com for the free stream of that one. And we'll check back in with the Frauen next week. Now we're going to move on to the men's side. Feeling good after some points picked up in the league here the last 2 weeks. Eintracht Frankfurt traveling to Borussia Dortmund, the yellow wall, the bees, all that nonsense, that obnoxious yellow they run out week after week, the most routinely year after year, the most annoying kits in Germany. Am I wrong on that?
You know what? I kind of like them, but I can absolutely see where you're coming from. And as a professional Bruins hater, I definitely can't get behind the black and yellow. So
exactly. See, I'm with you on the Bruins hate. It's just, here's the thing: the yellow wall thing is cool as shit. That park, I've been there. That is a great stadium. The atmosphere for a match there is second to none outside of Frankfurt. But it's the kit on the pitch. It just they're still with Puma, I think, right? And I can't get behind anything Puma
I don't think
does.
that one's ever changing.
No, it's just bad. But anyway, that doesn't really win or lose matches on the pitch. Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Dortmund, that's going to be, what's game time on that one here? Not even paying attention.
12:30.
12:30.
12:30
right.
Eastern time.
So, Dortmund's kind of gone under the radar this year. It's not the classic... It's not the Dortmund that's battling Bayern to the end for that first spot. They're also not playing bad football either. I think there's just such good play at the top with Leverkusen, and that second tier of Bayern and the unexpected Stuttgart is getting all the attention for Harry Kane and his addition to Bayern, and Stuttgart coming out of nowhere to be really comfortable in third place. Dortmund's not playing bad ball either. Just kind of inconsistent. Any early takes on them before we get into statistics and personnel and all that?
I mean, Dortmund is Dortmund. They're kind of doing what they do every year, which is play well, but not super, super well and slightly inconsistent, and always having some defensive issues that they can't solve even when bringing in players. It just so happens that this year there are bigger, or not bigger, but better teams competing against Bayern, whereas before it's really just been them and Leipzig, who also have their kind of similar issues. But yeah, I don't know. They're a good side, but they're definitely vulnerable. I mean, obviously, Gregor Kobel, though, is a wonderful goalkeeper, so
Yeah.
he can stop anything.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. Dortmund is a club with an identity crisis because they're constantly selling. They do as good as anybody of developing young talent and buying talent cheap and selling them. They're a bigger, more expensive version of Frankfurt from that aspect, where they really maximize their transfer potential. The difference is a lot of what they do is grown in-house, where we bring guys in for a year or two on low transfers and send them out on high ones. Dortmund's hit rate is off the charts. So, good for them. They've done it right. Some of the big names on their side stand out. Julian Brandt. You say Gregor Kobel, who's outstanding. Behind Kevin Trapp, maybe the best in the league right now. And even that is debatable the way KT's played lately. But, going down the list, guys like Jadon Sancho and, the list is never ending over there with guys they bring in. But I kind of look at this one as an opportunity if we're going to go on the road and steal points against a top 4 team and kind of re-enter a conversation with points we weren't expected to get. This might be the one. I see it from a tactical perspective where both sides are kind of lousy on attacking power. They don't do it a ton. While Dortmund scores more goals and they're kind of more dangerous in the box, it's inconsistent at best. And I think, if our defense is as strong as they have been at times, if they stay organized, if we're healthy on that back end, I really think if we can keep this, down to a 2-1 or 1-0. No, I can't say that. I'm not allowed to say that. If we keep it down to a 2-goal game max either way, I think it does favor us. I don't know if I'm ready to pull the upset yet. I'm going to wait for your expert opinion on that. But, I mean, tactically speaking, we're a better side with duels on the ground. We're a little bit better side with duels in the air, just slightly. Am I a little bit crazy for leaning towards Frankfurt in this one, especially on the road?
Maybe a little bit. I don't know, though, because obviously Dortmund, they just played on yesterday, I guess, so Wednesday, which, I mean, it's plenty of rest between that until Sunday, but it's still a game and an intense game against a decent Eindhoven side that they only won 2-1, I believe was the final. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really big for us having Skiri and Larson back as the midfield pivot. The combinations that were happening when either one of them were out weren't quite working quite well. And so having those two back together like that, I think, is going to be pivotal in this in terms of limiting Dortmund's attacking power. And yeah, hopefully, Pacho, Koch, and Tuta can really stand up. Obviously, it's going to be quite the battle between Tuta and Sancho, who's been on fire since going back to Dortmund. So I don't know if we'll pull the upset, but I could definitely see us pulling out a draw in this.
Yeah, I think I got to correct the stat I gave about aerial duels. I was reading that backwards. We're slightly behind Dortmund in that regard. But I think the issue we've had all year, and we keep screaming about it, nobody's listening, is shoot the damn ball.
Seriously.
The Dortmund defense does give up shots. Not the best opportunities from the best angles, but they do give up a fair amount of shots at target. So if we can put ourselves, for perspective, they've allowed 371 shots at goal. Now, they haven't all hit goal, but they've allowed 371 shots on target. Eintracht's allowed 257 shots on target. So our defense has done a great job of keeping the ball outside the box and limiting opportunities inside, where Dortmund's kind of the other way. They block a lot, and they kind of give some bad angles where the net is missed. But if we can just put the damn ball towards the goal, I don't care what happens. We've seen what happens, what kind of weird bounces it takes. Hockey, we call it puck luck, right? That's what it takes to go in and get an upset on the road. So,
absolutely.
It's kind of that time where we're supposed to make our predictions for the match, and I kind of set mine up. But here's your chance to talk me off the ledge with your prediction.
Oh man, I'm undecided. I think I'll go for a 2-2 draw. That might be a little optimistic, but I don't know. I think that the vibes are going to be flowing after the last game, and getting the win in Heidenheim. I realized that own goal bounce was very lucky to help us on that path, but I think that kind of got us back on track a little bit, and performing really well after the red card and even before the red card this past weekend. I don't know. There's a good feeling again. Obviously, Dortmund can go and crush that very quickly, but I don't know. I'm kind of feeling a 2-2 draw. Definitely neither. They're not getting below 2 goals in my opinion, and I think we'll be able to do it this game. Get more than one.
We joked about it on our Discord chat during that Heidenheim match that odd bounce on the turf was going to change the season. But if you look at the trajectory things have gone with the Brooks red card that was earned by Marmouche and then responding a little bit later with the goal. These guys, they look a little bit more determined, where we were seeing a lackluster effort through December and January and early February. I'm seeing enough lately where I'm ready to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're focused on one competition. They want to qualify for Europe. There's never been doubt in my mind that they want to win, but it's who's going to show up on a given day. It's been a while since we've seen it, minus, having the 2-man advantage, 1-man advantage, 70 minutes, 2 men for 20 minutes last week. It's been a while since we saw a team effort for 90 minutes. And that's really what I want to see. I think if we can do the team effort for 90 minutes, you're right, Dortmund is going to score. And I think they're going to score 1. But I think this is a Kevin Trapp game where the offense does enough to get multiple goals. Maybe a crazy one, maybe something off of a counter would be nice. I tell you what, I can't remember the last time we looked good on a set piece. I would love to see a successful set piece into the box, somebody with their head. It's been a while, but I think I can safely predict a 2-1 Eintracht Frankfurt victory at Dortmund. I'm not on drugs. I've only had 1 beer today. It's just a gut feeling that things are going to come around. Now, how long this good feeling will stay, I don't know, but I'm gonna ride this flaming unicorn while she's here because it feels good.
Hey, you know what? Even if it does go south, we've got the Frauen match starting during the second half of ours. So
hey, that's a good point, right?
We can get the good vibes going back up.
If all hell breaks loose in Dortmund and things look terrible, you know what? Turn off ESPN Plus and turn on Dotson.com, turn on the Frauen, because both matches at the same time, I'm going to be at work with like a NASA-style 30-foot TV in front of me. I'm throwing both up on the video wall. I don't care what my boss says. We're watching Eintracht all day in there, and you should be too, wherever you're watching.
Oh, yes.
John, where are you on social media? How can people yell at you for your terrible predictions?
Yeah, anyone who ever wants to yell at me about anything, just go to my Twitter at Ben_JBen. It's Ben with 2 N's. Or on Instagram at JohnBen33.
And John's also on our Discord chat. The link for that is at the top of hefpod.com. That's actually how he ended up on the show. Good feedback there on the Frauen and the men's side. Even if you give lousy feedback, we'll bring you on. That's how I ended up on the stand. But But yeah, if you want to participate in the show, either on air or in the discussion online, check out halfpod.com. You can submit your feedback there. You can join our Discord chat where we're currently talking about Nathan, our producer, who's stuck in his basement with tornado warnings in St. Louis. We hope he is safe. Hey, while you're down there, start producing this show. You always do a great job filtering out all the nonsense in our show. We appreciate everything Nathan does. I am Chris here in Detroit, or outside Detroit at the moment. You can find me at C&the-D313 on all the channels. And, of course, halfpod.com. We've got all the links there as well. So wherever you watch Eintracht Frankfurt this weekend, the men against Borussia Dortmund, the women against Duisburg. We'll be on Twitter with live updates on all those. We invite you to the Discord chat. And we will talk about it all again next week. Until then, choose. It's like the new dominant core.